Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters Community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Sulky, express yourself with Sulky and create with confidence. Brother, it's so easy with Brother at your side. And Quilt Cut, easy fabric cutting for quilters.
Hi, and welcome to Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters Community. I'm Lori Baker. With me today is June Mellinger, Director of Product Development and Promotion for Brother International. Welcome, June. I'm so glad you're here.
Me too. You know, I've been on your show at other times, and a previous project that I had made was one where I had used a template to kind of make a twisted sister design from Amy Sims, and it really came out, the placemats came out great because there's lots of color in the fabric and so forth. And you know, like any project that we have, we always have those leftover fabrics.
Yes.
And you just can't throw them away. So I said to myself, you know, I guess I'll go home and I'll make a table runner. So I got out my 4 or 6 squares, and you can see them here, and they look pretty good. I like the colors of the contrast of the pinks and the greens and everything, but you know, that strip down the center there is kind of glaring at me. And I bet it's glaring at you.
Yes, it is, actually.
It's not looking too good. So I said, you know, I'm going to have to do something with this table runner to kind of jazz it up or add some dimension or embellishment to it. So I was quite surprised when I said, why not look at the decorative stitches in my machine? So I have a wide 7mm decorative stitch that's shown here. And then what about making some folded fabric flowers? Now, today we have a machine here from Brother. It's the VQ3000. It's a sewing machine, and we're going to talk to you how to make those flowers, those perfect circles, with the circular sewing attachment. But if you had an embroidery machine, you could even use the circular frame patterns in that machine.
Okay.
And so now you would be making perfect circles with your embroidery machine.
Okay.
So there's lots of ways to make a better circle than one that's a little bit lopsided.
Yes.
So let's see how we can do that. These look pretty good, and you can see it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this develops. So again, remember how plain it looks without something in the middle, and there's lots of different ways that you can make these flowers. You know, with as I said, with my embroidery machine and the circular stitches, I might have a decorative stitch like this, or I might have a blanket stitch. And remember, I use 2 different colors of fabric, so I have kind of a contrast there. And I like that. It gives dimension to it. And so here's that bad free motion one. I was like, whoa, that's not looking too good.
That's not round.
No. So I said, you know, Brother has the circular sewing attachment. It's really easy to use and very easy to attach to your machine. You've got these handy markings here, so you can see exactly how, as I move this along, I can decide what would be the circumference of my circle that I'm going to make. And I have a really handy pin that would help me attach my fabric. So we're going to see how this works, but you can see right here from my samples that all I have to do is just take my pin, put it into the center of the fabric. You notice how I have 2 different types of fabric. And in this case, do you know what I really decided would be a good idea to do? I made sure that I applied several layers of spray starch. So if you feel my fabric, it has some extra stiffness to it. That way, I don't have to worry about the fabric flexing too much when I put it onto the attachment and start sewing around. Normally when I use my circular sewing attachment, I'm told to use some stabilizer, but that's okay if I'm not going to see the back of my fabric. But in this case, we're going to see that. Right. So I said, let's get that spray starch out and make that a little bit stiffer. And you can see as you go along, now you have created the circle with a beautiful decorative stitch. I made sure that I had the right foot on the machine. We'll see how this works in a minute. And we go on from there to cut it out. So let's see how much fun it is to use the circular sewing attachment. When you get this attachment from Brother, it does come with a couple of accessory feet for cording or for braiding as well. But today we're not applying any extra thread to the design. We're just going to sew a stitch that's a decorative stitch in a nice circular effect. I've selected kind of an elongated stitch so that it really will stand out. It gives extra dimension with my heavier thread. So I'm now just simply going to lower my presser foot, and I'm just going to let the machine start sewing. I have it at a medium speed, so it's behaving, no problems. And you can see I'm pretty much hands-free doing this.
Exactly.
I don't want to leave the room because, you know,
Right.
that's when disaster strikes
Exactly.
usually. But it really does sew quite nicely around in a circle. In fact, the other day my husband came in the sewing room and he said, "What in heaven's name are you doing?" And I said, "I'm sewing circles." And it was really kind of cool. So you can see how that's working there. It's pretty quick. I can adjust my tension for that stitch if I wanted it to be tighter and so forth. But for this case, it looks pretty good.
It's looking great.
Looking good, and you can see how easy it was to,
Yes.
to do that. So I really like that a lot. So when I'm all done with that, I'm also able to then take a scissor and trim that circle. And you can see, before I did that, I said, you know, we've got this product called Fray Check. And basically, it's like a seam sealant, if you will.
Right.
And so I just simply applied the seam sealant all the way around the edges. It dries really, really quick. And it's well worth it because in case I were to get a little bit too close to that thread while I was trimming, it would not, you know, get me in trouble. And also the edges here will not fray and look messy.
Okay, cool.
You know, so I like that idea. So I have that all trimmed and cut out. And so then I can get busy making my designs. So in like this case, I'm going to take this apart because I don't know where that other one is here that we had here on set, but that's okay. So I have my circle, and I take my iron and I will press in my edges. So it's almost like a 4-inch square.
Okay.
I had I think this was a 6-inch circle, and it becomes a 4-inch square when I fold in my edges. And you can see how neat and tidy that is. And now the next step is simply, it's kind of like those fortune teller things we used to have in school.
Yes.
So I just fold in the points like this. And then when I'm all done, I can go ahead and say, okay, this looks pretty good now. But if I want to fancy it up, then I can just kind of get a little cute like that.
Oh,
now
yes.
and make it pop up a little bit. So you can see the results are really very attractive. And I also added some buttons to the center. So if you get that big quilt back again, you can see that all I would have to do would be to have applied those down the center of the work. And there I have the flower attached in the center with a button, and I used my button sewing attachment that goes with your machine. So I made sure that I had the button sewing attachment attached to the machine, and I actually stitched the button down along with the flower, and then I had that attached 1, 2, 3. So before we go, I also want to show you that we have the circular sewing attachment attached. I've trimmed the thread just for the sake of getting this job done here a little bit quicker for you guys. But I can leave that attached. Okay, so I can select one of my wide decorative stitches. Every machine's different. And I made sure that I have the correct foot on my machine. I have it centered. The machines have great feed dog systems in them, so they really do track with very little need to hold the fabric tightly. And this machine has an 11¼ inch throw from the needle to the arm here, the vertical arm here. So it really allows me to create the stitching without too much folding, if
Right.
you will. It's really nice and clear. And you can see how easy this is. Very interesting. And it really is pretty fail-proof because the feed dogs are so accurate. You'll be able to guarantee that you'll have the same distance on both sides as you sew down the panel.
Nice.
So that's a really neat project. Fun and easy. It made my quilt look like something much more exciting.
Yes.
And I'm really happy with the results.
I think they're wonderful. We've added dimension with thread and a 3-dimensional fabric flower.
Yeah. And
So
it looks great.
It looks wonderful. June, thank you for showing us what you've done. We appreciate you being here today.
It's been great. Thank you very much.
And we appreciate you being here with us today. Hope you had fun. Hope you learned how to make a great embellishment for your quilts.
Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters Community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Sulky, express yourself with sulky and create with confidence. Brother, it's so easy with Brother at your side. And Quilt Cut, easy fabric cutting for quilters.